Hi, this is Rob. I'm going to be showing you how to do the exercises that go along with the video lesson, Exponents and Algebra. Are you ready? Let's get started. For our first problem, we need to solve these two exponents right here. We have 8 to the 0th power, and if you remember from the video, any number raised to the 0th power is 1. Doesn't matter what the number is. And here we have an unknown. We have b raised to the 0th power, and even though we don't know the value of b, we know that since it's raised to the 0th power, it's 1. For our second problem, we need to solve these two exponents, and we have 8 raised to the first power. And if you remember from the video, any number raised to the first power is itself. So 8 raised to the first power is 8. And here we have b to the first power. And even though b is unknown, b raised to the first power is b. For our third problem, we need to solve these combination exponent and root problems. So we have the square root of 10 being squared. And if you remember that roots and exponents are inverse operations of each other, that means they undo each other, you'll see that the square root of 10 being squared just leaves 10. The square root and the square undo each other. And now we have the cube root of 15, that whole quantity, cubed. And so once again, this cube root and this being raised to the third power being cubed undo each other, leaving just the 15. For our fourth problem, we need to solve these combination exponent and root problems. And for our first one, we have the square root of x squared. And once again, the square root and the square undo each other, leaving just x. And here we have the cube root of x cubed. Once again, the cube root and the cube undo each other, leaving just x. For our fifth problem, we have solve for x, and we have the square root of x equals 5. So, to solve an equation, we need to get the unknown all by itself. So we need to undo the square root. And so to do that, we just square this side. So we have the square root of x, and we're going to square that whole quantity. And then it still equals 5, but we need to square both sides. We need to do the same operation to both sides. So on this side, we have 5 squared. And so square root and the square cancel each other out. They undo each other, leaving just x. So x equals, and then we have 5 squared. 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. So x equals 25. For our sixth problem, we solve for x, and we have x squared equals 49. So to undo this operation, the being raised to the second power, squaring there, we need to use the square root to undo that. So we're going to take the square root of x squared equals, and then on this side, we need to take the square root of 49. And if you remember from the video, when you take the square root of a number, the answer can be positive or negative. And so we show that with this little plus over minus thing here. It just means that this can be positive or negative, and it will still be correct. And so the square root and the square on this side undo each other, leaving just x. So we have x. And then the square root of 49. So we need to know what two numbers multiplied together give us 49. And 7 times 7 is 49. But negative 7 times negative 7 is also 49. So x equals plus or minus 7. Problem 7 is solve for x. And we have the square root of x equals 10. And so we need to undo the square root that's being done to the x. So to do that, we need to square that whole thing. So we have the square root of x squared equals, and then we need to square this side as well. 10 squared. So the square root and the square undo each other. They cancel out, leaving x. And here we have 10 squared, which is 10 times 10, which is 100. So we have x equals 100. Problem 8, solve for x. X squared equals 81. So we need to undo this square here. So we take the square root of x squared. We need to do the same to both sides. So we take the square root of 81. And since it's the square root, the answer will be positive or negative. So now the square root and the square cancel each other out, leaving just x. And over here, the square root of 81 is 9. 9 times 9 gives us 81. And negative 9 times negative 9 also gives us 81. So x equals plus or minus 9. Problem 9, solve for x. And we have the cube root of 3 equals 4. So to undo this cube root, we need to raise this whole thing to the third power. We need to cube that whole quantity there. And then on this side, we also need to raise this 4 to the third power. So now the cube root and the cube cancel each other out, leaving just x. And then 4 cubed, which is 4 times 4 times 4, is 64. So x equals 64. Problem 10, solve for x. And we have x to the fourth power equals 16. So we need to undo this being raised to the fourth power. And to undo that, we take the fourth root of this whole thing. So the fourth root of x to the fourth equals, we have to do the same thing over here. So we take the fourth root of 16. And with fourth roots and other even roots, like square roots, the answer can be plus or minus. So the fourth root here, and being raised to the fourth power, cancel each other out, leaving x. And then the fourth root of 16, it means we're looking for a number that you multiply 4 of them together to get 16. That is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. You'll see that equals 16. But also like negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 would equal 16. So we have plus or minus 2. So for this problem, x equals plus or minus 2.